On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you, when you're doing yard work, safety matters. If you use a ladder, be aware of overhead electric lines, including the service wire that runs to your house. Even wooden ladders can conduct electricity with dangerous results. And be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a swimming pool, and you're working with skimmers, brooms, or other long-handled tools. Central Hudson wishes you a safe summer.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Jackie Levezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support the Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This programming is brought to you by the Friends of Kevin Cahill. As a strong advocate of local broadcasting, Assemblymember Cahill urges you to support Kingston Community Radio with your time and donations. Your contributions keep KCR vital and on the air at FM 92.5, AM 920, and on the web at mykcr.org. Please join Assemblymember Cahill and send your gifts of $10, $25, or more to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. Together, let's keep KCR alive.
Good morning, everyone. This is Rick Remsnyder. This less than sunny Friday morning. How are you this morning, Lawrence?
I'm good, Rick. How are you?
Good.
I'll take this rainy, cloudy, muggy day after Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's why I moved home from Florida 15 years ago. It was because of Mondays and Tuesdays. I mean, it said, it was, I know it didn't get to 100. It was like 98 or 97, but it felt like 110
I agree
outside.
with you.
Did you even golf those days?
I one day got out about 9 o'clock, golfed, played about 12 holes, and then it was...
unbearable.
Yeah, I said, okay, that's enough. Even with a cart was...
right, even with a cart, exactly.
But there were some people actually going out around noon. I just said, wow.
That's, yeah.
More power to you, folks.
I remember in Florida when I used to live there, and I was younger then, so I was in my 20s. We used to go out, and during the summer, no one plays golf in Florida because it's just too unbearably hot. But you can go to these nice courses like the Blue Monster and Inverary out west in Lauderdale, Florida, and a bunch of other places that you can't play between like November, from November to March, because they're packed with the members that belong there. So we used to go to these nice places, and they had a television screen inside the cart that told you where your ball was, how many yards you were exactly from the pin. You had the park ranger button, you had the cart girl button. If you wanted a beer or a hot dog, you could hit the button, the cart girl would come riding up to you. If you had a problem with someone on the course, you could get the ranger over there. But these courses were so nice. Inverary was one of them in South Florida. They had an east and a west course, kind of like similar to what Bethpage is in Long Island, right? They have
Yeah. Bethpage has a lot of good courses. People, except for the people in Long Island, that realize that everybody thinks that it's just Bethpage. But let me say that again.
Bethpage Black.
Bethpage Black.
No,
but,
there's two of them or three of them, right?
I believe there's three others. I know there's the green, the red, and the yellow.
Right.
And
the black is the hardest, and that's why the PGA goes there. Right. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, this place in Florida, like we played the Blue Monster one year. Normally, it's like $250 greens fees, and you got to be with a member to play the Blue Monster. But not in the middle of July. It's you could play the thing for $50 with a cart. This was 20 years ago or whatever.
It's the same way. One summer, for some reason, I was going through Myrtle Beach, and
they got nice courses down there. Yeah.
And I went out about 10 o'clock to play. And I went up to the pro shop, and I said, I'm just a single. Any problem getting out? He says, yeah, and there's no problem getting out. You're the only one that's here.
Really?
Yeah.
How do they even make? Yeah. How do they even make any money? Now, a lot of people would go and sometimes in the summer in the morning, these courses would open up at like 6. The first tee off time is like 7 a.m. So you'd have people there packed in the morning because it's still kind of cool out.
Right.
They could get 9 holes in, and it's only 9 a.m. They go home and get on with the rest of their day. So we would take the later tee times, and I'm telling you, it'd be like back then. I think it was like for some of these other places that weren't like the Blue Monster, but $20 worth of cart. And back when I was only making $300-400 a week as a cold caller or whatever, that was great. You had something to do on a Saturday, go hang out, and
they used to have a PGA Tour event there. It was the Jackie Gleason Inverary Open many years ago.
Oh, so you've been to Inverary before?
I have not, but I know they had a golf
Yeah,
tournament.
no, the Inverary. There's an Inverary East, Inverary West. They're both pretty difficult. A lot of alligators on that course. They'll just come walking. There's like alligator crossings, The first time I saw one in Florida, I was like, "What the hell is that?" I thought there was like a log. I'm like, who leaves a log in the middle of the fairway? I was like, "What was it?" I was like, "They're like, that's no log." I was like, "Oh my god, that's an alligator."
That log.
As you
is
drive up
moving.
with the cart, though, they scurry off back into the water or into the woods. There's also a lot of foxes on Inverary too. But I had a good time. There's a bunch of good courses in Boca Raton that you would never get to play, during the winter that you could play during the summer. So. But
well, we can, as much as it's kind of cutting into golf for the last couple of days, I know that we need the rain for the
yes,
golf
we do.
courses.
We're really below the water table. My dad always told me, as he used to bring me up and down the tower when I was a little kid, in his old CJ4, he used to say if you see there's a stream that runs down the side of Snake Hill, like it trickles down the mountain. It's the mountain water when it comes off. He goes, if this thing looks like a regular path, like a walking path, you know that we're really, really below the water table. He goes, if you see it trickling a little bit, that means we're pretty close, but we still need some rain. If you see it flowing like a river, then you know we're in good shape and blah blah blah. I haven't seen it trickle or do anything, even with the rain that we have. And I was up there yesterday afternoon. It's still as dry. So I think you have the Freeman in front of you. It'll tell you on the back page where the weather is, how many inches below the water table we actually are. It's on the weather part. Yeah, just flip that over there. Cameron Rylance is the one. He's like, oh, just turn the Freeman over. I was like, get out of here. So it should tell you what we're supposed to have. I guess it's an inch. I want to say an inch a week. That's technically to give you the right, frame of mind of how much, rain we should have.
Yeah.
If you look at the Shokan Reservoir, it's pretty low. But they can also open up the Gilboa and let, the Gilboa Reservoir and let more water down in there. But I think that's low too. I mean, we're definitely, when Kingston's at 100, 99 degrees, which is not unheard of. I don't remember it being, I know we get hot spells, every year throughout the summer, but we don't get them in June. Usually we're getting them in like the end of July, beginning of August.
We were lucky compared to the West Coast.
Oh, yeah, Death Valley, it was like 131 the other day.
Oh, my God. Some of the places, even like Portland, it was 107. Places like that never get the heat. So
yeah. No, walking from here to the post office on Tuesday afternoon, or Tuesday, right before lunch, around 10:30, 11, I walked to the post office on Main Street, then walked back to here, and I was almost dripping wet.
Wow.
Just on my, not like dripping literally, but I was like, I had to sit down at my desk for a second, let the cold AC blow on me, and then get on with my day. So who you got for guests today, Rick?
Got a really good lineup today. A author, Greg Hrinya. He's a Marist College graduate.
Oh, great. My dad graduated from Marist.
He used to cover the New Jersey Nets and the Brooklyn Nets, and he wrote a book called The 5-Year Plan, talking about the Nets from New Jersey to Brooklyn.
Oh.
So we can talk about that a little bit. Plus, it's perfect timing to have Greg on because the Phoenix Suns advanced to the finals, the NBA Finals.
Yeah, the NBA is hating that right now. They totally wanted LA. Could you imagine the Hawks, even if it's the Hawks or the Bucks, the ratings on this year's NBA's finals are going to be in the bag, dude. You don't have LeBron there. You don't have any of the superstars there. It's Milwaukee's chance to win. If Milwaukee doesn't win it all now, then there's no excuse. You don't have any of the, the Suns are a small team. They're not a big team. And the Bucks are the most healthiest team right now.
Well, they did.
Who won last night?
The Bucks won last night, but Giannis didn't play because he hurt his knee.
What about Trae Young? Did he play?
No, he didn't play. So they got Game 6 Saturday night. So probably we'll talk to Greg about it, but I'm thinking probably Atlanta will win that, and because it's been a home court series, and then they'll have a Game 7.
And then they'll lose that.
It'll be in Milwaukee.
And then they would probably lose that.
I believe it's Monday.
God, the Suns are getting lots of rest. They swept Utah. Then they sat around for a week waiting for L.A. And then and now they won. The Suns won the other night, right? Thursday night or Wednesday night, right?
They won.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday, and this whole playoff season has just been one injury after another. It's almost like
they didn't have time to recuperate. That's the thing.
Well, I think
they went into the bubble. They came out. Usually, you need time as an NBA player. You know how much when you're on the road for like 8 games or something, you're going to 8 different cities and 12 different days. Sometimes you'll play back-to-backs.
Yeah, no question.
And they tried to crunch a season in. When did they end? I think they ended last year. I know they went into the bubble. And then the Lakers won it last year. But then they came out. They got, a month and a half break?
I think they had like 3 months in between. But we could talk to Greg about that because he's really on top of it. But I agree with you. It's just been so – and then some of the injuries – this should have been the Brooklyn Nets year. But then Kyrie hurt his ankle and Harden was hobbled. And they still barely lost in overtime to the Bucks. So, but, we'll see. It's a little bit of luck this year, so it's going to probably come down to the Suns and Chris Paul and the Bucks and Giannis. So we'll see who's healthy and who's not. So 4th of July, I was looking at the schedule of celebrations. The latest I have here, Ellenville will Warsing.
Saugerties is the closest for us.
Saugerties.
Yeah, Canton Field's doing their full-on show.
Yep.
Greg Chorvis was on the air Wednesday talking about it. Kingston, we didn't get out of the pandemic Cuomo guideline rules too late, so they weren't able to book anything. I think Fred and Bill Murphy and the guys up in Saugerties anticipated us being out of it, so they went ahead with plans to do it, and they probably had the backing for it. We're here. I know the last few years, or when the last time we had it, Joe O'Connor, or when he was with Minetti, and O'Connor used to pay for the fireworks because the city of Kingston couldn't.
$40,000.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
So if you live in the city of Kingston, you're going to have to take a little trip up to Saugerties.
You are. Around here where I used to be, my favorite as a kid were the Glasgow fireworks. But then something happened where the firehouse burnt down. But they were the best, man. They were the loudest. They were the longest. The grand finale was the best. The firehouse. Really? Yeah, the firehouse used to put it on at the Glasgow Firehouse. And that was the best fireworks at all. Better than Kingston, better than Canton Field.
Well, we'll have some real, in addition to Greg Hrinya at 7:28. At 8 o'clock, I'm really excited to have Marjorie Block. She's a longtime friend of mine, and she's head of the town of Saugerties tourism efforts. So Marjorie can talk about everything that's going on in Saugerties this summer, the fireworks, the Garlic Festival. So and she's also a longtime person on the Kiersted House, which is a historic building in the village of Saugerties. So that's really good. So we can get all caught up on what's going on in Saugerties this summer. And I'm sure
the car show is on the 11th, too. That's a week from Sunday.
I'm sure you've been to the Garlic Festival, right?
Yeah, oh, God, yeah.
I don't know.
But I haven't been in probably 5 years. I went up with my dad one year. The Saugerties Kiwanis puts that on.
Right.
They make a ton of money off that thing. Pat Reppard started that years ago. Yeah. She used to be on GHQ.
Really?
Yeah, she used to do recipes. She used to come in and record them, and I had to be the one that recorded
She started it on her front lawn.
Pat Reppard. She was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her husband's name was Rep. I wonder if they're still alive.
She is not.
Pat's not alive.
No. I don't know.
I would imagine Rep is dead, too, because I think he was older than her. They were both very, very lovely people. And she used to have some great recipes, too. Like, I took a few of them for myself, out of the because we would record them for him. I think it was on GHQ like every day. It'd be like Pat's Recipes or whatever. We'd play one of the recipes, and then if listeners wanted the recipe, it was in a file book at the front of, in the front office, where the receptionist sat. And if people came in, they'd have to call. You would print the recipe out. And I remember she had a couple good ones in there.
Well, when I was tourism director, we used to have a booth right on the main drag there. Thanks to Marjorie Block, by the way. We'll talk about that a little bit, where we first started out. And if you get good weather, Lawrence, easily 40 to 45,000 for 2 days at Cantine Field. And people love garlic. And they have so many different...
a booth. We tried to get a booth there one year. I was working for a restaurant up in Tannersville, and they wanted $1,500. I think $1,500 a day for the booth, or maybe it was $750 a day. $1,500 for the whole weekend. The only thing they asked is whatever we made, it just had to have garlic in it.
Right.
So it didn't matter. You could make garlic French fries. You could make garlic cheesesteaks.
Right.
Yeah, and as long as it had some with garlic in it, they were cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad that it's back. Like the Ulster County Fair last year, it wasn't held, so the Garlic Festival will be back. And
when is that?
That's a big economic boon for Saugerties.
Oh, definitely. Do you know when the dates are on that?
I'm gonna.
Or she'll know.
It's we'll get that, but it's the.
Is she the one that's calling in at 7:20?
No, she's Marjorie's calling in at 8. But the Garlic Festival is always the last weekend of September, so I can look it up while we're here. And let's see, Garlic Festival. One thing that was interesting many years ago, I decided to say, how many garlic festivals are there actually in the country? And you wouldn't believe the number of garlic festivals. This year it's actually going to be held October 2nd and 3rd. So they changed the dates a little bit.
Oh, the Giants are at home on the 3rd.
2 and 3. And
can't go to that one.
It'll be really, I'm sure after a year off, it'll be really packed. But when we looked to see how many other garlic festivals there were in the country, I was shocked by the number. It was like 25 to 30 other garlic festivals.
In all of America?
That's a lot. I thought, Hudson Valley Garlic Festival is obviously one of the most well-known on the Northeast. But, there's a lot of people love garlic, and they'll come from miles around.
Wow.
You used to see the tour buses pull up
for garlic
Saturday morning from New
How about
York
just
City
go get a
or
cookbook
wherever,
and make your favorite garlic dish?
get
at
off
home.
for the day, and they would load up with any type of garlic they wanted. So
now, does the Kiwanis, like when you go to the garlic festival in Saugerties, do you have to pay admission to get in, or you just
Yes.
you can? Oh, you do.
There's an admission, and it's moderate. I think it's like
Right.
$15 or something. We'll ask Marjorie if it's changed since the last one was held in 2019. But there's free parking, so it's
When I lived in Florida, we used to go, and we used to travel not too far, but we would go 100 miles or so. They had these big rib. It would be like a barbecue, not like a barbecue brawl, but there'd be a festival with like this one was in Vero Beach, which was it was definitely a couple hour ride from Fort Lauderdale, but one of the best in the whole state, where there'd be like 50,000 people there. All they would cook is barbecue, brisket, ribs, anything to do with barbecue. It was $20 all you can eat and all you can drink to go in. But when you went up, like there would be 95 different tents. When you went up to a tent, they would say the one guy was doing ribs. You would get 2 ribs and like a little thing of coleslaw. And that's it. You couldn't eat at his place anymore. But you could move down. You could eat at every single one. And then they had a big Budweiser beer truck.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, but this was back in 2002. So we're talking 20 years ago. And for $20 back then, but you'd stay there pretty much all day, and you'd be full when you left, and you'd have
Where was this?
All over Florida. They would They would post them in South Florida all the time. You would go onto this. It was actually on TV. We used to watch it. And they used to show pictures of it. I mean, there would be people there from all over the place. So we used to do that all the time. But some of the barbecue you would eat there, you'd be like, oh my God, this is delicious. And then you get to the next guy's tent, you'd be like, oh my God, this is even better. You'd have a little heartburn at the end of the day. But man, it was, they'd have all trophies out of all the stuff that they won. The people were very nice. if you wanted to play horseshoes, there was that. There was all kinds of stuff to do. There would be, kids there. There would be, 20-year-old men there. There would be grown. It was all mixing different races of people and ages, and it was great.
There was all kinds of things to eat at the Garlic Festival, but the one thing I won't try, garlic ice cream. Sorry, not
gross.
doing that.
No way. Or I don't want garlic in my eggs either. But like they have garlic. There's that. You ever go to that garlic French fry booth with the? It looks like a milkshake cup.
Oh yeah.
And they stick all those long fries in there, and they put parsley, garlic, and oh my God, it's $9 for that thing. But I mean, you could split it with like you and your wife and your 2 kids could eat it. You know what I mean? It's like huge, but it's like the one they serve at Yankee Stadium but bigger, and the fries are like this long, and there's like little, like very shaved pieces of garlic on there with some parsley. Oh, it's so good, dude. Hang on, we got a phone call.
This is probably Greg calling in. It's 7:20. It's a little muggy out there today. Greg, are you there?
Rick, I'm there.
Great. Folks, we're very happy to have with us. One thing I want to mention, Marist College graduate, a author, and also someone who has covered the New Jersey and Brooklyn Nets. We'll get into that, and we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. This is my good friend, Greg Hrinya. And what's going on, Greg?
Nothing much, Rick. I really appreciate you having me. Always good to talk basketball with you.
Yeah, well, it's one of my passions, and I know it's one of your passions. So let's, before we talk about your book a little bit, I'm sure you watched last night's game. What were your impressions of the Bucks going up 3-2? Must have made you, I know one of the people that you were telling me about that was someone that was always good with the media was the Nets' all-time leading scorer, Brook Lopez, and of course he's with the Bucks now, so he had a huge game last night.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument it's probably the best game of his career. I mean, he really stepped up, and I think when you look at the Bucks roster, you were looking for, okay, they don't have Giannis. Where are they going to find offense? Everyone was talking about Drew Holiday's going to have a big game. Chris Middleton's going to have a big game. And Brook Lopez was kind of that forgotten guy. And when you watch the game last night, you really you realize just how good he can be and how good he was. And it really reminded me a lot of how he played with the Nets. I mean, he the thing that I liked about what he did last night was that he wasn't standing out by the three-point line and jacking up threes. I mean, he took 2 of them, and I mean, he missed both of them, but where he did all his damage was in the paint. And I think that, not to say that he's been misused, but I guess when you have Giannis on the floor, you can't really have both of them clogging up the paint. So, I mean, without Giannis, not to say that in no way am I saying the Bucks are a better team without him, but I mean, it opened up the paint for Brook, and you saw that they really made a concerted effort to get him the ball there, and it reminded me of his Nets days. I mean, especially the last years when I was covering the team, and Lionel Hollins was the coach, and he really wanted Brook to be a fixture down in the paint. He didn't want him standing outside taking jump shots, and I mean, the analytical nature of today's NBA is shooting threes is better just because you shoot 33% on threes. It's the same as shooting 50% on twos. But the reality is, I mean, he was getting all high percentage looks. So I mean, that's the way that I mean, I'd like to see him play. I mean, it always frustrates me when I watch Milwaukee and I see him outside jacking up threes from 28 feet away from the right wing. It's like, get down in the paint and dominate the way that you still can. And it was refreshing to see. And as you did mention, he was always a good guy with the media, and we would go in there. And I mean, not that fans are going to care about this, but I mean, when you would go into the locker room, I mean, he was still in his uniform and he was ready to meet the media. I mean, to contrast that, I mean, like Darren Williams, I mean, he would always be the absolute last one, and it was almost like he was trying to wait out the media so he didn't have to talk to them because it took him forever to do his availability. Whereas Brooke was always the first guy out there to meet people, and he answered every question, and he was always good about it. He wasn't big timing anybody, so he always had a good attitude, and he's someone that, as I mentioned to you the other day, I'm rooting for. He had a great career with the Nets from when I covered them, and he's always been a good guy. So it was nice to see last night, and I'm hoping they can pull it out. But in this series, just because I'd like to see him do well, but they still have a ways to go. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, there's a big game Saturday night, but let's go back a little bit. Get your background for the listeners. This is Greg Hrinya. He's covered the NBA for a number of years. He also wrote a book about the New Jersey Nets move to Brooklyn. Talk about what got you started. I know I met you a number of years ago when you were working for the student newspaper at Marist, covering the men's basketball team. Was it called The Circle? Am I recalling that right?
Yep, you're correct.
And when was that? When did you first go to Marist and start covering the men's team?
So I graduated high school in 2005 and went to Marist. And the reason why I went to Marist was because of the sports communications program, which I think is a lot bigger than when I went there. But I mean that was a big draw for me. And so 2006, I started writing for the paper, and I was doing odds and ends. I believe the first sport that I ever covered there was women's soccer, but I mean I also did swimming, and I wrote some stories, I believe, about the crew team, and I covered all sorts of things. But the very first game, that men's basketball game that I got to cover, was the whiteout game with Jared Jordan and Will Whittington, and they were playing Siena for the regular season title. Obviously, they wound up falling in the semifinals and didn't get to go to the tournament that year. But it was just an incredible experience. And even for 7 years covering the Nets, I mean, the atmosphere in McCann Arena that day, it was probably better than any atmosphere I ever experienced in the pros. I mean, you could feel the arena shaking. I mean, 3,200 people in there. Game went to overtime. Marist pulled it out, and it was loud and it was intense. And I always loved basketball before that, but I mean, that game really made me fall in love with it and made me want to cover the men's team. And obviously, they got tripped up by Siena in the postseason, and then next year, there was Whittington, there was Jared Jordan, and they were still a good team, but not as good as my sophomore year there when I first started getting a taste of covering a few of their games. But it was something that I really enjoyed covering, and I enjoyed the day in, day out of being around that atmosphere and being around what was a good Division I team at the time. And so then when I graduated in 2009, I had the opportunity to write for a website called Examiner.com, and my beat was the New Jersey Nets, and at the time, obviously, they weren't very good. In fact, that first year that I covered them, they went 12-70, but still, it was something that got me in the door and really propelled my sports writing days, and I got to see a wide range of basketball. Mostly with the Nets, it was bad, but then I would get to go into opposing locker rooms, and the one that I remember the most, the first year that I was covering them, was going into the Lakers locker room. You've got Phil Jackson and Kobe and Pau Gasol walking around, and being able to be part of that media scrum and like asking Kobe Bryant questions. I mean, that was something that I won't forget. And I mean, obviously that first year the Nets weren't anything to write home about. So I mean, the big draw, ironically, was talking to Brooke Lopez after every game. But so that's how I really got started. And I was lucky enough, after covering basketball for a while at Marist, that I was able to sort of jump right into that after college.
Well, it's great experience, and I agree with you. With hopefully it'll be back at some point when crowds start coming back. When there's good teams at Marist, the atmosphere at the McCann Arena is unbelievable. I was at that game. I think Will Whittington might have hit a big shot to either win it or send it in overtime. I don't remember. You probably do, but I think now with Coach John Dunn there, that they finally, I think they had 13 straight losing seasons, and they finally had a winning season last year. And I know John was a longtime coach at St. Peter's, so I think the Red Foxes might be on the way back next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed with what he did this year. But I mean, he was always a good coach when he was at St. Peter's. I mean, he always got them to play sort of above the names on the roster. So I mean, you know, he has a tough-nosed mentality. He wants his teams playing defense, and I was impressed with what I saw last year, and we'll see. You know, I just saw the other day that they had 3 new players coming in, so I feel comfortable with him as the head coach. He obviously has a ton of MAC experience, so he knows what works in the league. And as you said, I'm looking forward to getting back at the games because when they were good and they would fill out the arena, the atmosphere was really great. And I mean, obviously, the past couple of years that we've been going to games together and catching up. I mean, what have they had? 800 fans, 1,200 fans, something like that. But I mean, when the games matter and they have 3,000 fans in there, it's a great atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to seeing that again.
No question, and I think John will get the job done eventually. He's known for his hard-nosed defense, so it took him a little time to get some athletes in there that actually wanted to play on that end of the court. So let's talk about how many years did you cover the NBA?
So I covered it for 7 years. So Examiner.com was about 6 years or so, and they got bought out by Access.com, which is like the ticket master of the West. And so then I actually started writing about the Lakers and the Clippers for a couple of years after that, because they were the ticket outlet for them. So I was following the Lakers and Clippers a little more closely there at the end. But as far as covering the Nets, it was 7 years of covering them. So my last year was the 2015-2016 season. So that was the season after. That was the year after they had lost to the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs when they went 6 games with the Hawks in the first round, and the Hawks went on and eventually fell to the Cleveland Cavaliers before they went to the finals against the Warriors. But that last year the Nets weren't very good. The first year that I covered them, they weren't very, very good, so it kind of came full circle there. But it was pretty entertaining in the middle there in terms of what they were trying to do as far as turning the team into a championship team overnight, which sort of was the direction that the book went in as far as how bad they were at the beginning, what they tried to do in the middle, where they went wrong. And I mean, everything was sort of with Brooklyn on the mind those first couple of years that I was covering them. I mean, I remember there was when they were trying to court Carmelo Anthony before he was eventually traded from the Denver Nuggets to the Knicks, when we were walking and doing the post-game availability in the first I went to the Nets locker room, then I went into the Denver locker room. But as you were walking in the bowels of the Prudential Center, as it were, they had all these renderings of what the Brooklyn arena was going to look like, what Barclays Center was going to look like, how the outside of the arena was going to look. It was basically like a pitch that they were trying to sell Carmelo Anthony about why he should want to come and play for the Nets. So I mean, they were really putting on a hard sell even while they were still in Newark. The first year I covered them, obviously they were in East Rutherford, then they moved from Izod Center to the Rock in Newark, and then ultimately to Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So it was a wide range of basketball, of storylines, and obviously the middle there was a little better in terms of the quality of basketball. But the last year that I covered them was that 2016 season where things were sort of starting to bottom out. That was before they were sending those high picks over to the Celtics that turned into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Well, let's talk about, we have Greg Hrinya on this morning. I'm happy to have him. I appreciate you getting up early to do this. Let's talk about your book, which is still available because I got a copy recently. It's called The 5-Year Plan, The Nets' Tumultuous Journey from New Jersey to Brooklyn. What led you to write that book? And just briefly tell the listeners, and by the way, if anybody wants to call in, 331-9255. This is Rick Remsnyder. Happy to take your calls about anything. Right now we're talking about the NBA. But talk about the book a little bit, how it came about, and what your premise was, and how it kind of played out this year.
Yeah, so it was actually during that 2013 season where the Nets had just acquired Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Jason Terry, and they made that ill-fated trade. I mean, looking back on it, it was ill-fated, but at the time they really thought that was something that was going to propel them. I mean, there was the famous Sports Illustrated cover about the Nets with Jason Kidd on it, and surrounded by Brooke Lopez, of course, and then Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and it was, the Nets, who wants a piece of them. And the whole idea was, this team is going to be unbelievable. They're going to be impossible to stop. They're going to be a championship team. And they started out that season, I want to say it was either 10-19 or 10-21. But I mean, they had a game where they played the Indiana Pacers, and it was towards the tail end of December. And Jason Kidd was sort of like out of answers in the post game, just for how bad they were playing. They had gotten blown out a number of times, once by the Knicks, once by the Nuggets, and then by the Pacers. And I just started thinking about it, and it's like, wow, this really was not what they envisioned coming to Brooklyn. I mean, they basically spent years trying to set the stage for this team to be a championship team, and I mean, they really looked like they were bottoming out then, and that was after they'd given up all these assets to acquire these aging stars. And I'm like, really, had they kept all their assets, I mean, and I go through a little bit in the book, but I mean, and, not to say that they would have taken all these guys, but I mean, the picks that they have had, I mean, over the years, I mean, they could have had Damian Lillard and Klay Thompson basically in their backcourt. I mean, again, not to say that they would have taken those guys at that time. I mean, I don't know that anyone thought Klay Thompson was going to be as good as he was. Obviously, nobody thought Damian Lillard was going to be the star that he's turned out to be. But I mean, you start looking at some of those picks, and it's like, they traded Derek Favors at the time, who was much more nimble than he is now. But I mean, he was certainly more athletic then. And it's like, you had Brooke Lopez, you could have Derek Favors, you could have Damian Lillard and Klay Thompson, and you start running through it. And I mean, even the one pick was, I think, turned out to be Draymond Green. It was a second-round pick, so I mean, you're not going to kill a team over a second-round pick. But I mean, you start going through it, and it's like, wow, they could have had all these guys, and here they are with this aging team with Pierce and Garnett and Jason Terry and Andrei Kirilenko at the time, who was hurt a lot at that time of his career. And it's like they really tried to sell this team of aging guys just because they were big names. And so I looked at it and I'm like, this is really not the way that they should have run this team, given the fact that you're in New York and you're battling theoretically with the Knicks for, to sign guys. Not that the Knicks have ever really, signed anybody of note outside of Amari Stoudemire. They traded for Carmelo. He chose to stay there. But I'm like, really, what they should have done was just kept on going with their assets and tried to build something homegrown, kind of what they did along the lines of under Kenny Atkinson and Sean Marks, with getting guys like D'Angelo Russell and building up Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie and using ultimately when they had picks, that they acquired Karis LeVert from a pick that they had. So I mean, it was along those lines. It's like that's really how you build a team, have a good coach, put an infrastructure in there, and people will come. And I think that team, again, going back to 2017, 2018, 2019, I think people really fell in love with that team locally. So, I mean, looking back on it, before that point in time, I looked at it and I'm like, this is really what the Nets should have done. So I started writing this book, and I started just putting ideas down on paper, and the ideas were really flowing, and I basically started with how bad the Nets were in 2009 and what they were trying to do, and it basically culminated with that team getting bounced out of the playoffs in the second round by LeBron, and then the year after really was really kind of where it came crashing down, because they lost in the playoffs to Atlanta, but also that was sort of the tail end of like Darren Williams playing with the team, and so much of those teams were, the idea of them being great was built around they were getting a Utah Darren Williams, and really what they got was a much lesser version of that, a guy who was hurt a lot, and a guy who lost confidence at times, and really wasn't what, they built around what they thought was a superstar player, and it really wasn't to be. And then so I looked at it and I'm like, really, they should have gone in a more youthful direction, and I started putting ideas down on paper, and it's like, wow, lots really happened during this 5 years of the new ownership when Mikhail Prokhorov bought the team, and so the whole premise was built around that, and so it's been interesting to watch how the team has evolved since then. So I mean, again, the last year of the book was 2014 season. So I mean, it's been 7 years since the season was chronicled in the book, but it was really built around Mikhail Prokhorov's 5-year plan to make the Nets a championship team from where they were, which was, they were 12-70, and then he was acquiring the team the following year, and it was basically how those things can't be rushed. I mean, you have to put in the work, and you have to build the infrastructure, and kind of again, as I said before, what Sean Marks did. It's like, you really have to try and build up younger players and build around good coaching and do it that way. And so that was sort of the theme of the book. And then it's been interesting to watch how they've built a team since, with acquiring Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and then ultimately making a similar style trade, which what they did for Garnett and Pierce, although I wouldn't say that James Harden is quite as long in the tooth. So, I mean, it's a little different just because of he's still sort of in his prime, or at least in the tail end of his prime, you would think, whereas Garnett and Pierce were well past their prime at that point. So, I mean, they were throwing good assets after guys who were no longer able to contribute at that level. I would say that Harden still can. Obviously, Durant, from what we saw in the playoffs, he can still contribute at that level. Kyrie is still in his prime. So, I mean, I would say that it's a little different from the last time, but still, they were able to use that infrastructure and what they built organically to lure a bunch of stars over, and the first two they didn't have to give up anything for. So it was that culture and that atmosphere that they used to, and the fact that they had so much cap room to lure Durant and Irving, and then it just sort of went from there.
Well, if anybody is a Nets fan like my son and I have been, this is a great read. It's still available. It's called The 5-Year Plan. I'm talking to Greg Hrinya. If people want to get that book besides Amazon, or is that the best way to get the book, or is it available another way?
Yeah, Amazon is the best way to do it. Other online outlets, I mean, you go to barnesandnoble.com, you can still get it through there. But all digital channels, basically, that you would go through, you can get it from there. And it's funny because after the book was published, I actually went and toured around a lot of the bookstores and basically was giving out copies. And I still see that with the status reports that I get once a quarter on the book, that you still have some bookstores. They don't tell me which ones, but they tell me that local stores still buy a couple copies here and there to stock. So I think that was a worthwhile endeavor. So I mean, I guess if you're in the tri-state area, there might be a store or two in Brooklyn that might have the book, just based on the reports that I get. But I think the easiest way to get it is through Amazon for sure.
Good. The Nets have come a long way since the days in the Brendan Byrne and the Meadowlands. I can remember my son and I we turned out to be Nets fans because it was a lot easier to get tickets. It was impossible to get tickets for the Knicks. So we started near the bottom of the barrel there, the Butch Beard era, and players like, we can't go into all of them, but Michael Cage, and you can go on down the line. But I remember reading stories that the Nets brass were so desperate to get bodies in the Meadowlands that before some games, they'd have some of their PR people go out in the local malls and just give away tickets to try to get people in the arena. But that's no longer the case in Brooklyn because with the big three there now, it's there's if not selling out, they're doing very well. My question, I guess, before we ask you anything else, is since I'm a huge Nets fan and you covered them, what do you think the window is for this big three to win a title after suffering Heartbreak City this year to the Bucks?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I'd probably say 2 years. I mean, I guess if you really look at it, and I mean, you really want to be pessimistic, I mean, theoretically, all these guys can opt out after next season. Now, I certainly don't expect them to do that, but I guess the hope for fans would be that next year goes pretty well because, if things were to somehow flame out or go sideways, they could all theoretically leave. Granted, I don't know why they'd want to do that. I mean, the Nets have pretty much, catered to their every desire. I mean, Durant and Kyrie, from all accounts, I mean, they have a lot of sway as far as everything that goes on there. I mean, I imagine that the reason why Kenny Atkinson was no longer the coach is because, they wanted to play under someone different, and Durant had a close relationship with Steve Nash from his time advising the Warriors. So, I mean, I think the Nets, know where their bread is buttered. So, I mean, they're going to do everything they can to take care of their stars. So I think that they'll probably stay there beyond what their contracts allow them for. But, I mean, I think it's kind of like with what LeBron did. I mean, when he was in Cleveland, I mean, he was basically signing all these one-year deals with a player option for a second year. So he was giving himself flexibility to put pressure on the franchise, basically. So, I mean, if you're not surrounding us with the players that we want, we can always go elsewhere. And then you saw LeBron ultimately went to L.A. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know that those guys are going to do that, but I mean, I think if you're a Nets fan and you're concerned, I mean, at the very least, you'd want next year to be a team where that team is vying for a title, just given the fact that logistically they could theoretically opt out. But I'd imagine that they won't do that they will, sign new deals and stay for the long term. But then you start wondering, when do the injuries pile up? When does the money pile up to where you then can't add newer, younger bodies, and then, as they get a little more long in the tooth. I mean, you saw how exhausted Durant was trying to carry the team, and obviously it was expected to be a big three, and it was like a 1.5 there at the tail end of that Bucks series. But still, you could see him running out of gas. So, I mean, I don't necessarily know that you're looking at it in 4 or 5 years thinking that, Durant and Kyrie are still going to be carrying this team. And obviously with Kyrie, it's impossible to say what he's thinking or planning on doing. But I think the fact that he grew up in this area, grew up a Nets fan, as long as he's playing in the NBA, I feel like this is probably a safe bet for him to want to stay here, just given the fact that he's close to his family. So I would think that they would sign new deals after that. But in terms of when they're at their peak, maybe injuries not catching up to them, age not catching up to them, you're probably looking in the next 2 or 3 years, really, is that optimal window. And I mean, next year, you would think that if next year isn't their year, if they don't have a good year, maybe that'll put some doubt in people's minds. But I think they'll probably re-sign longer term, maybe like 3-year deals for big money at that point to stay after that. But I think next year, maybe the year after that, is really where their window is to accomplish it. And look, they'll go into next season as one of the 3-4 teams that you would expect to be vying for a title. Of course, the off season will be interesting to see. I mean, they have a bunch of guys who can go elsewhere. Spencer Dinwiddie, who tore his ACL. I mean, he's expected to leave, but he didn't impact that team this year anyway. but Blake Griffin can sign elsewhere, Bruce Brown can sign elsewhere. Not saying that they will, but I mean those are questions that over the next month, will have to be answered as far as how do they improve around the fringes and give some help to those guys, especially if they have to deal with injuries going forward in the future. What kind of supporting cast do they have around them? So that'll be interesting to monitor. But as far as I would still expect them to go into next year as one of the favorites, and probably the year after also as one of the favorites.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, injuries are part of the game, so we know we have to keep that in the back of our mind. But with even with James Harden playing on one leg and Kyrie out, the Nets took almost won that series against the Bucks, and I'm sure they would have been the favorite against the Hawks if that's how it played out. So I think those three guys, if they look in the mirror, all they need is a healthy year next year, and they'll certainly be the odds-on favorite in the East. So we'll see what happens. For all you Nets fans out there, there's been a lot of putrid basketball, so this is something that is nice to look at with the big three. I'm here with Greg Hrinya. Let's talk about Greg. We sort of left off. We'll see what happens. What's your prediction on the rest of the series with the Bucks, and who do you think's coming out of the Bucks Hawks? And at that point, who do you think is the favorite to win the NBA title? The Suns looking pretty good right now, or what's your feeling? The East team is going to come out of there and win the title.
I mean, I guess it's easy for me to cop out and say it looks like the Bucks are in good shape. I mean, they have a game edge. They have a 3-2 edge, so they have two cracks at it to get to the finals. So I mean, it's easy for me to watch the game last night and say to myself, well, look, if Milwaukee is going to play like this, then they'll move on to the finals. And it's funny too. We were talking about the other day that this Milwaukee team is just such a Jekyll and Hyde team. I mean, like, coming into that series against the Hawks, first game at home, they just came off an emotional game against the Nets, and you thought, this is really their chance to go out and harness this title run, and then they fall flat. They lose game one, don't play well. They come back, they play two great games, and it looks like they gain control of the series. They're going to win in 5, and then game 4, they just totally lay an egg. They're ill-prepared and, not playing hard and don't seem connected on either end of the floor. And they're down by 20 at one point. Giannis gets hurt, and then you think, okay, well, that's it for them. The Hawks are playing well, and then, backs against the wall. They played great last night, and really, they're in control of the entire game. Brook Lopez turns back the clock. Middleton's good. Drew Holiday has his best game. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to know what you're getting from the Bucks on a night-to-night basis, which I think has kind of been their problem over the last couple of years. I mean, I think the last 2 years, everyone has really thought that Milwaukee was, especially when you have an MVP winner in back-to-back years in Giannis Antetokounmpo, you think, wow, this team's really poised to go to the finals, and they've been kind of a letdown those 2 years. And now this year they get past the Nets, and then Giannis gets hurt. So I think I would still take the Bucks in this series. I think where the Bucks sort of get lost on offense, that they settle into this isolation style where 4 guys stand around and they have Middleton or Holiday trying to create at the top of the arc, or when Giannis is healthy, him trying to create at the top of the arc. And it's like if they just move the ball a little bit and drive to the rim, Atlanta really has no answers. So, I mean, and you saw it last night. They had 66 points in the paint. I mean, it's like that's the way they have to play. And I mean, you would hope that they wouldn't revert back to what they were doing at times against the Nets where, they got stagnant, and then also in the Atlanta series, obviously they've gotten stagnant. They only had 40-point paints the game before. They shot 39 threes. They weren't making any of them. So, I mean, it's like they tend to revert back to, they want to be something that they're not, and really what they should be is a dominant interior team. I don't necessarily know that Giannis is going to come back. I mean, when we saw that injury, there were all sorts of reports out there at the time, but I mean, it looked like a hyperextension, which is basically what it was. And even, someone with the most nimble tendons, joints, all that stuff, I feel like that's a 2 to 3 week injury. So I don't necessarily even know if we're going to see Giannis come back again in the playoffs. I'm sure he's probably going to be chomping at the bit to try and play. whether or not he's able to come back, if they advance past Atlanta, which my guess would be they will, and we'll see a Suns-Bucks finals. But will he come back? Will he be able to play at anything resembling his MVP form? I don't know about that. So I mean, if he's not able to come back, just based on the fact that Phoenix is pretty healthy right now. I mean, their core is intact. I know Cam Johnson missed the game the other night, but I mean, again, he's one of their role players. So I mean, if Chris Paul's healthy, Devin Booker's healthy. Obviously, Devin Booker has the broken nose, but I mean, he's still able to run around out there and shoot. So I mean, if you have Booker, Paul, and DeAndre Ayton, who's emerged in these playoffs, I think if I were a betting man, I would go with the Suns as of right now. If Giannis were completely healthy, that might change a little bit. I still might go with the Suns just because I feel like I know what I'm getting from them on a night-to-night basis. I trust their coach a lot more. Monty Williams has been in the league a while. He's got a lot of experience, and I think the experience that he's shown has been very positive. Even his previous stops, I think guys have developed under him, and he's worked well with veterans, and it seems like he's had good buy-in from his team, and I like the style that they play under him. So I think that if I were being honest, I mean, again, I'd like to see the Bucks win selfishly, to see Brook Lopez, pull through and win. So I'll be rooting for them, but I don't necessarily know that would be a safe bet if I were looking at it objectively. So I think that the Suns are really in the driver's seat now, especially given Giannis's injury. But of course, they have to play the games. I mean, you saw last night that Milwaukee still has ways that they can be effective and they can score a ton of points. I mean, even without Giannis, they put up 123 points yesterday. So I mean, they still can be effective if they have Drew Holiday stepping up into a role and playing like an all-star that he's been in the past, and Chris Middleton has obviously been an all-star. So I mean, Brook Lopez made an all-star team with the Nets. So I mean, they have guys who are accomplished on that roster. So I mean, we can certainly make an argument of how the Bucks can be effective in that series even without Giannis. But I mean, I think that it's a safer bet to go with the Suns, and I think that'll be the overwhelming sentiment going into the series. But we'll see. I mean, you never know. The way the season has gone with the injuries, I mean, you just never know. A guy turns an ankle the wrong way or lands on someone the wrong way, and a lot can change seemingly in an instant. So I guess we have to let the games play out. But as it stands now, I'd probably go with the Suns.
All right, I'll keep that in mind if I'm ever on my way down to New Jersey, and I might put a few shekels on your prognostication. Hey, Greg, we're coming up on our time. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been really great talking to you. I'm looking forward, hopefully, seeing you over at the McCann Arena along Press Row there, where we can. You, me, and our other buddy, mutual friend, Dan Reinhardt, can decipher all the coaching moves and tell everybody what we would have done. Of course, I think I trust John Dunn more than I trust us. But it's been great talking to you. Have fun watching the rest of the NBA playoffs, and we'll talk soon, my friend, okay?
Rick, it's always a pleasure. I really appreciate the time today. Thanks.
All right, take care. That was Greg Hrinya. And we're coming up on a break, Lawrence, so take it away, sir.
Listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, this is Jim Quigley, supervisor of the town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
Rondout Savings Bank has a long history of serving local communities and maintaining a strong tradition of customer service excellence while providing each customer with the personal attention they deserve. Rondout Savings' approach to community banking puts you and the growth of your business in the front of everything they do. They're a different kind of bank and would like to tell you why, so please reach out to one of their expert business bankers for an appointment and let them show you what they can do for you. Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
All right, this is Rick Remsnyder back to the 8 o'clock hour. We're halfway through the show, but before we have our next guest, we have a couple birthdays, Lawrence. So let's do those right away. Let's please wish a very happy birthday to Barbara Davis, Love Taylor, Alexander, and Michelle. And for tomorrow, July 3rd. So since she's the only one on July 3rd, she's going to be the birthday winner of the famous cow pie. Courtesy of Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And then on the 4th of July, a momentous time to have a birthday, we wish a happy birthday to Jackie Heinitz. Hope I got that right.
I think you pronounced that right.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, I looked at it. That sounds good.
From your friends
if it isn't, they can call and tell us.
That's right. From your friends at Lunch a Bunchers. Now, that's a good one.
That sounds like a frisky bunch.
Yeah, it does.
Apparently, they're not doing any drinking over at the Lunch and Bunchers.
Well, they won't be drinking.
Maybe they're drinking
get
punch.
That famous cow pie, courtesy of Boyce Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. So, folks, get those birthdays in because based on this, they got a really good chance of winning.
Yeah, actually, if you send them to us at the P.O. Box, or you can email them at kcr921@gmail.com. But if you get them to me at like 10 days to 14 days prior to the birthday, you could probably be the winner because they usually start coming in a week before, and by then, someone always sneaks one in at like 10 days. So remember that. Send them in super early. You got the best chance of winning.
There you go. We have our guest on the line. And by the way, one thing I really like is you don't mention the people's age. That's very nice. So I'm happy to welcome a dear friend of mine I've known for a number of years. She is the person that promotes Saugerties tourism. Her name is Marjorie Block, and it's great to have you on, Marjorie. How are you this morning?
I'm doing really well. We're getting ready for a busy season.
Well, it's about time, right? After last year, I mean, what'd you do all last year when we were all locked up in the pandemic?
Oh, it was sad. It was really, really sad. I mean, just, I have to say, though, the Village of Saugerties and Town of Saugerties, they did a great job last year during the pandemic. They had all kinds of tables set up outside, helping the restaurants. Mayor Murphy did a great job. I mean, so they did a lot to accommodate during that time period, trying to help everybody out. So, I think they're okay this year. I think everybody got out. I mean, there was, everybody experienced hardship during that time period. But I think right now we're on an upswing. So that's good news.
Well, that's great to hear. I have to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, I do some freelance writing for some weeklies and the Middletown Record, and I was covering high school baseball playoffs, and at Cantine Field, which I don't need to tell you is a premier baseball facility in the Hudson Valley. And there were a number of high school games, baseball and softball, Section 9. But when I drove up, I was covering two teams there from Section 9. I was covering Marlboro and Newburgh. But when I drove up to Cantine Field, I couldn't believe not only the Section 9 baseball and softball playoffs, but every field was packed with all kinds of youth softball, baseball. It was like, I couldn't believe it. There was not a parking spot to be available. I ended up having to park over across the street, way down the road at the high school. So halfway, almost to the high school along the right, you know where I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
The people of Saugerties, it's always been a tight-knit community, and they were ready to watch sports and participate sports. So I think we're on the way back.
And, that seems to be, people think of Saugerties just the baseball in the summertime, but it's really year-round. I mean, we're fortunate. We have soccer fields. We have baseball. Greg Chorvis has done a tremendous job getting, all the fields up and important things like all the lighting for night games. But we have the hockey inside the ice arena, the Kiwanis Ice Arena. So, Saugerties is very much a sports town, and it is year-round. You know what I mean? So that's a great thing. It's great for our youth.
There's no question about it. And going back to ancient history, I don't want to talk about the year because it was so many decades ago when I was a sports writer for the Daily Freeman. I can remember there was a charge by a woman by the name of Gloria Lipton to have an ice arena in Kingston. She was very big on ice, on skating. Could never get it done. The city fathers, for whatever reason, weren't interested. Well, lo and behold, Saugerties took the bull by the horns, and they have that beautiful Kiwanis Ice Arena. I mean, that is a great facility, and that's been a big boon for the community, hasn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, and it's not just the Saugerties community, other communities, because, they don't have the facilities, are coming in and using that. So it's really great. And so that helps everyone. Helps our restaurants. It brings more people into the community, and it helps our youth. I mean, on a personal note, my own grandson has he's only 12, and he's been in the league since he was 5. So it's really a great thing for the young people. So, I just think it's wonderful. The work that the Kiwanis and Greg Chorvis and his team and everybody the town has done, they really have their eye on helping the community. So it's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased to have you on, Marjorie. As I've said, we've been friends for a number of years, but I got a little nervous when I saw in the May 21st issue of the New York Times, or May 19th issue of the New York Times. There's a headline, there's a great story about Saugerties. It says, Saugerties, New York, a congenial place with a colorful history. And about halfway down in the article, you're quoted, and I said, wow, Marjorie Block has hit the big time. Talk about the effect. That was a great article. Can you talk a little bit about what happened there and how that came about and how you were contacted by the New York Times?
Well, New York Times actually reached out to the community through Facebook, through social media. and then they started to talk to people and got names of certain people who to contact, and that's how they contacted me. But it was a nice rounded article because it talked about all different aspects of Saugerties. Sports. It talked about, the possibility of state films coming in, about the arts in Saugerties. We were just talking about sports, but Saugerties has a lot of arts and a lot of, that type of thing here. So, yeah, it was a great article. And there's been a lot of new articles the last few years about Saugerties. We've seen a big influx of people coming in. And not all that are living here. A lot of people, tourists coming in, visiting us, and people purchasing homes and coming up on weekends and, things like that. So, yeah, it's really changed the community, the whole face of it. Where back in the 1970s, 80s, it was just primarily sports, where now it's really very well-rounded, sports and arts and, music. And, so many festivals in Saugerties, everything from the Garlic Festival, things like the car show. 2 weeks we have Bob Saracasano for Sawyer Motors has got his big car show on July 11th. That's a great event, so, yeah, and it's getting a lot of attention. So, we're really glad to see that, because and a lot of these events aren't run by big companies or, not that there's anything wrong with that, but these are community people. These are, members of Saugerties that are working hard together to try to do things to enrich everyone. And so it's a nice reflection of everyone who lives here.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the events. Well, I guess the car show is certainly coming up. You mentioned July 11th. That's a big one. After sitting out a year, Dr. Richard Kapler and the whole team, the Kiwanis team at the Garlic Festival, they just must be tickled pink that that's going to happen. Talk about that. I know you're there every year with a booth, and talk about what effect the Garlic Festival has on the Saugerties through the years. And I'm sure you're looking forward for big crowds again as well, as long as the weather's great.
Well, that's one of my favorite festivals of the year. And, again, it's about community. A lot of vendors and people come in from out of the area, out of the state, but there's also a lot of community groups. The Boy Scouts have booths, and, the Blue Cats. All these community groups come in and they sell or do certain things to raise money to keep, themselves going throughout the year. So that's a great thing. And you see a lot of the arts at that time. Arm of the Sea performs. This year, Ian Flanagan will be there. So,
oh, wow.
So it's really, really very nice. And then, you talk about the garlic. It's not just about garlic. There's, yes, that's there and it's in all the foods, but there's a lot of farming in Saugerties, a lot of small farms, and they're there, they're there with selling farm-to-table type of food. So, that's really nice, too. So it's really, the Kiwanis do a great job in mixing it up so that everything is there, so.
Yeah, it's a great event, October 2nd and 3rd this year, Saturday and Sunday. I know for years attending it with Ulster County Tourism, it's great crowds, between 45,000 if the weather's good. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I have to give you a little thank you because I won't go into all the details, but the first couple years Ulster County Tourism had a booth there. It wasn't exactly in the greatest location. And I saw Marjorie, and I said, Marjorie, can you lobby me, Ulster County Tourism with Dr. Kapler and give us a little better spot? Lo and behold, we're on the main drag. It was great. So I got to thank you for that. It certainly helped us out. You have some big pull with the Garlic Festival.
No, I don't think so. But, but we're all working together. Doc Kapler knows that, I have his best interest. You have his best interest. And Ulster County Tourism has been an out. I mean, I know you're retired now, Rick, but you and your staff, and now Lisa Berger. I mean, the support that we've gotten has just been phenomenal. I mean, we've been really true partners over the years, and so we should help each other. And the last 2 years, it's been Saugerties Tourism, Ulster County Tourism, and we're honored to have had I Love New York. So we should be on the main drag.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's all about personal relationships, collaboration. Particularly in tourism and hospitality, we all have to work together, and the people of Saugerties obviously understand how important that is to the economy, and it was great working with Greg Hellsmortal when he was supervisor, and followed by Fred Costello. They all understand the value of tourism. Here's a hard question maybe for you, Marjorie. Hits and Tom Strazzeri has been a unbelievable addition to the Saugerties community, having his Hits horse shows there. Do you think that Saugerties would have grown to the extent that it has if Tom Strazzeri didn't decide to locate Hits there in Saugerties?
That is a hard question. I'm not sure. I really do believe that he was, at that time, he was the catalyst that started it, that he really, I don't think people realized that we were here yet, we weren't getting the attention. So he really did help with that. And I mean, if you've been to his properties, Diamond Mills, the Steamboat Company, and of course, Hits. I mean, we get visitors from all over the world. So, yeah, I think that he has had a major contributing factor for, where Saugerties is. I think, though, that, once the ball started rolling, though, I think that, it's been, so many other things on top of it, like the Sawyer Car Show. But Tom has had a tremendous influence on Saugerties. A very positive one. So yeah, I'm appreciative of that. And he's been involved with the community for a good number of years, doing a lot of things that behind the scenes that people don't realize. I know that during the pandemic, that Tom Strazzeri and Diamond Mills, they were preparing meals for families that they couple days a week they were at no cost they were preparing these meals that were picked up at the Boys and Girls Club. And I don't think people realize. So yeah, definitely helped put us on the map.
Yeah, it's plus he does, like you said, he's done a lot of behind the scenes things. He's been very generous to the community and done a lot. He's done a lot for Saugerties and quietly, and sometimes I'll never forget. I don't remember what the event was. It might have been one of his grand openings of Diamond Mills, or it might have been the first time they had the Ulster County Regional Chamber had their premier event there. But I think it was maybe the grand opening, and it was raining, and so as a person who was invited because of my position with Ulster County Tourism, I drove up and I could see there were a lot of people getting in the lot, and there was this man out there in shorts and a pullover directing traffic and doing really working hard to make sure people got into the proper places. And I pulled up, was Tom Strazzeri. And I said,
"Oh yeah, no, he's a hard worker. I mean, he's very involved with his properties, and that's great because so often businesses, they have business owners that aren't as involved, and they just don't know what's going on. But not him. I mean, he really does, and you can see it. It's reflected. How the properties are maintained. How their staff and everyone treats the public. I mean, it's just the integrity of their organization. So, yeah, no, that's a reflection of Tom Strazzeri. So,
he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty.
No,
which a lot of CEOs.
I tell you,
Go ahead.
I worked on the groundbreaking for Diamond Mills because that was done at the Historical Society in Saugerties.
Right. Yeah. Talk about a little bit, Marjorie's. Well, first of all, let's talk about Saugerties. Even though the city of Kingston, for whatever reason, is not having fireworks on the 4th, Saugerties is having usual fireworks at Cantine Field. Correct?
Yes, they are, and they're also having the full parade, July 4th. 1 o'clock is kickoff, and I think we're one of the largest parades in the area. I mean, it just isn't 4th of July without a parade. And last year, obviously no one could do it, but it's going to be this year. And I know my whole family's excited. I'll be out there on the street waiting to see everybody,
Sure. You've been a long time official and working. What is your position with the Kierstead House?
Well, I'm president of the Historical Society. I'm
Right.
also the village historian.
Well, talk about the Kierstead House is a nice. It's a great little gem of Ulster County, and right next to it, you're having usually the Saugerties Farmers Market. Talk about how often that is held, and if people want to go up to the Farmers Market, which is next to the Kierstead House.
I'm sorry. We have a great farmers market. I mean, they're there, every Saturday from 10 to 2, and I am thrilled that they have just announced that the live music is back every week. They had scaled down quite a bit because of COVID, but now they're expanding. They're bringing in more vendors. They even have a little area where, young people can do art. So, I mean, it's a lovely, lovely farmer's market. They have tables set up. You can come in, you can buy food, and just sit and relax for the afternoon, So, no, they're great. They do a great job. And they do a lot of events. I'm not sure yet this year what they're going to have, but they've had cook-offs and things like that. And I'm happy to know that when I go to visit the Kierstead House now, that I'll be able to hear that live music play across the field. It kind of brings the whole area to life.
That'll be great. I kind of skipped over it because it's really a very newsworthy event. You mentioned that Ian Flanagan is going to perform at the Garlic Festival. How'd that come about, and is he?
I don't know. I just got the news, so honestly that he was going to perform there.
Great.
So I don't know how it, but Ian's been very community minded, and everybody has voted for him when he was on The Voice. They set up big screens at Cantine Field so the community could go up and watch him sit in their cars during the pandemic. And so he has had, the community's full support. I'm thrilled that he's going to be there. So it just showed up. I don't even know how that happened yet, but I'm sure that there'll be a big crowd to see him.
Good. I hope so.
Yeah. No. So I just want to say, if you don't mind, just a couple things. You talk about events. We have the Farmers Market. We also have the Saugerties Artist Studio Tour in August, the 14th and 15th. That, if you've never been to an artist studio tour, you have to do this. You can get a map online. You can visit their website. It's free. It's absolutely free, and they screen, and they the art tour group, they bring in all these new artists, and you get to go to their homes. You get to go to their personal galleries and see what they're making, talk to them. And you don't have to pay anything. So, and their young people can go, older people can go. It's a great event. We have Shout Out Saugerties has been doing some great things. They're doing Jazz on the Beach. I think the next one is July 15th. Hits, we mentioned Hits. Their summer series is coming back July 12th. Stallions, Opus 40's got big plans for July 4th. You'd have to go to their website. They're having picnics. You can buy food up there. They're going to have music. So, there's always something going on in Saugerties. It seems like every weekend there's a fun event. So, and again, like I said to you, most of these events are done by small community groups like the Kiwanis, who I can't say enough about, doing the Garlic Festival. People don't realize, I mean, again, that's a group, the Kiwanis, they don't get paid anything. They work an entire year to put together this Garlic Festival. And Doc Kapler, but there's a lot of other folks that are involved too. And, they work hard all year, and, a lot of the money goes right directly into the community, things like the ice arena. So, and I'm working on the food truck festivals coming back also. That's going to be at the end of July. And that money is anything raised there will go to the rebuild of the playground. So a lot of the events in Saugerties you'll find will go to something. They're not just money raised that goes to a business or corporation or something. A lot of it stays right here and helps the community. Bob Circasano's car show, that money that he raises from that car show goes into the foundation and helps local families. I know Bob has done a lot of work helping local families with children with cancer and things like that. And he helps, the veterans. So I like to think that when you go to a Saugerties event, you can feel good about spending money here in this community because, it really does help everyone. So I just had to give that little plug.
Good. If people, and that's a lot of activities. By the way, this is Marjorie Block from the town of Saugerties Tourism. Great person in the community for a number of years. If people want to, what is the website for the Saugerties Tourism if they want to go see all these, check these events, Marjorie?
Oh, you can just type in saugertiestourism.org and you'll find it.
Even I can remember that.
Oh, I think maybe .com.
I think it's .org, but if they just Google Saugerties Tourism and it's coming up, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a great thing, and we have a calendar on there, and you can see, all kinds of photographs, and you can get a list of shops, things to do. Yeah, that's, of course, now we're, as you know, Rick, in the wintertime, we are able to put a lot of events and calendars together, at a nice pace, but because of COVID, it just seems like it's just a big rush right now. So, bear with people. If you, have a question, call, email. We're happy to answer your questions.
Opus 40, by the way, is a great place. A number of years, I'm going back, don't even know what the year is, but they used to have concerts there. And I remember seeing John Sebastian sitting in the rocks at Opus 40. And I know there were a lot of other well-known artists there, but people want to go to, that's a great place to tour, Opus 40, right?
Oh, yeah, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. I mean, you have to go there. You just can't believe that someone spent 37 years of their life building this outdoor sculpture, And there's other places, too, that the names may be deceiving. Catskill Animal Sanctuary. That's a great place to go with your family, and it actually isn't in Catskill, it's in Saugerties. So, and they're now open again. But yeah, Opus, yeah, they're having yoga at Opus. You can go there and have an outdoor yoga class, and you can buy picnic lunches from different restaurants that are coming in, listen to live music. So yeah, I would encourage the public to spend an afternoon there. They'll have a good time.
The new owners at Catskill Animal Sanctuary, I know that used to be a really, really popular spot. So I'm happy to hear that that's back in operation.
Yeah, no. We're fortunate that there's so many places to visit. You could come spend a week in Saugerties and find something different every day. I mean, whether it's hiking, we have great trails here. We have Falling Waters Preserve and Sopas Creek Conservancy, great place to visit. I mean, you can listen to the concerts for Shout Out Saugerties down by the beach. iPaddle is a great place or a great business in Saugerties. You could rent a kayak and go out on the Hudson River. Where Gail Porter does that, and that's a great. I haven't been brave enough to do that yet, but but just because I'm anyway, but. But that, I've seen a lot of people out there. That's really popular. And she takes families out and groups. So, yeah, it's just very well-rounded. And I would encourage people to come and spend some time here. It's just a nice little town.
It is. People of Saugerties are very welcoming and obviously understand the importance of hospitality. Marjorie, our time is up. It's been great talking with you. I have to tell people that when I think of Saugerties and tourism, I think of you, all that you've done through the years.
Thank you.
So I appreciate everything you do, and I look forward to seeing you in person one of these days. I
know, Rick,
do
I
it.
miss you, my friend. I really miss you.
Well, if I get up to the Garlic Festival, I'll be giving you a call. So we'll hook up there. So
Okay.
have a great 4th and stay well, Marjorie.
You too, Rick. Bye-bye.
Okay, we take a little break.
Yeah, we'll take a break. Is your next guest coming into the studio?
That was the plan.
That's the plan? Okay. Let's go to break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Swimming pools are great for family fun, and Central Hudson wants you to play it safe. Never operate an electric appliance next to or in the pool. Be sure pool motors and filters are grounded. Have them installed by a professional and serviced by a licensed professional electrician. Be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a pool, especially if using long-handled cleaning tools. And if a storm is nearby, get out of the water. Your safety matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org. Produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
All right, Florence, we're back. We're waiting for our guests from Cacao.
I think I messed up. I'm still learning this new Telos system. And you think I would know it now. We've been here for over a year and a half. But sometimes I hit the drop button instead of the hold button because it's scribbled out on there. It's a used one. So I accidentally hung up on the guy.
Oh.
Yeah, so he'll be calling back.
Okay.
They all do.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't they want to call back?
That last guest you had was good.
This is a hot show.
It is. There he is. I just see what I said.
We're connecting with our guest now. We'll have a little break.
Yes, he's on the line, and I'm sorry for hanging up on you. I thought I hit the hold button. I hit the drop. So, good morning. You're on the air.
Is this Federico?
Thank you.
Hello, is this Federico?
Speaking, yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Rick Remsnyder. I'm the host of the morning show. It's great to hook up with you. Everything going all right?
Good morning. Yes. Thank you for having us. I'm having me. Happy to be here.
Great. So I was reading about your operation. Okay, the first thing is I got to make sure I have the name pronunciation. Is it Cacao Laboratory?
Correct.
Oh.
So it's and that's actually our URL, and what we're commonly known as, but also Cacao Lab, short for.
Right. And your location is on Wall Street in Kingston, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we're over here at 295 Wall Street, next to the courthouse.
If anybody is wondering if they're what used to be there, it's the old Dunkin' Donuts. But I have not had the pleasure of going to your establishment, but I plan to very soon after talking with you. I'm sure that you have the environment's a little bit different than what it was for Dunkin' Donuts, because I read about it in an article. Tell me about what happened there and how you have renovated, and when people come in, the atmosphere that they're going to experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's totally different than what it was and what perhaps you might expect from the old establishment. The idea behind coming to Kingston for us was to come into a smaller community, and thankfully we've been well received. We're really happy to be here. And the idea of coming into this location in particular was to bring a little bit of more love into what otherwise would have been a really corporate environment. And so what we focus on here is working with cacao, which is the main ingredient in chocolate, and that's what it's well known for. But cacao has an amazing amount of properties, we should say, health properties, feel-good properties. And if you've ever had a really good piece of chocolate and you felt, the happiness and love that comes with that, this is just a little bit more. Typically, cacao has, or chocolate has about maybe 10-20% cacao, and what we work with here is pure cacao, which is just a lot better in terms of quality.
Now, you and your sister, I'm going to take a flyer on this because I haven't talked to you about it. I'm 1 for 1 on the pronunciation of your business. Is it Florencina? How do you help me with here? Florencina?
My sister's name is Florencia.
Florencia. Okay.
We call her Flo.
Flo, much better. Let's go with Flo. So talk about the shop which you opened in February. It's your first brick and mortar business. The business was built around e-commerce, but now you're in-person experiences. Why did you and Flo decide to come to Kingston and open the business there?
Absolutely. So, the pandemic sucked things for everybody, and definitely our business was primarily, it was a combination. While our e-commerce has always been, what sustained the company, our in-person experiences were what ended up promoting us and what helped us grow. And so what we do are cacao or experiences around cacao, being called cacao ceremonies. We try to refer to them as cacao circles because the practice was an indigenous practice. The idea of cacao ceremonies, this was a ritual practiced by many indigenous people. And so we refer to our circles or our ceremonies as circles, just to be clear on, where we stand on the matter. And what it is essentially is just people gathering to drink cacao or really high quality chocolate, to talk about, what's going on in the community. And when the pandemic hit us last year, our community dismantled and went all over the world, which really forced us to go back online. And we started doing some of these circles online, which we're still doing to this day, twice a week. But the idea of coming to Kingston was, again, to set roots in a smaller community, and so we're here to build that, to build a community, and cacao is just something nice that we can all enjoy, and it's an amazing medicine, we call it.
Great. Well, we're here with Federico Friedman of Cacao Lab. By the way, folks, you should know that it's at 295 Wall Street in Kingston. It's open Friday through Monday, 12:30 to 4. And if anybody's interested in talking about it or anything in particular, it could be anything else, please give us a call at 331-9255. Federico, why did you and Flo, how confident were you to open a business basically during the pandemic? I would have thought that would have been a little bit of a risk, but how did it turn out?
Well, it's turned out great. The idea of moving into a retail space during the pandemic was just, for us, really a no-brainer. I mean, when everybody gets scared, my background before I started Cacao Lab, I should say, was in finance, and I learned there that typically, I want to move against what the masses do. When everybody's selling, I like to buy.
Yeah.
And so that's where I learned that, this was an amazing, beautiful community. There was at the time a lot of open spaces. And I saw the love here. I wasn't really worried too much about, what was happening. But also coming from a place of privilege where we have an online business, and online food businesses during the pandemic did very well because food became the new gift. And so that allowed us to maintain and have the ability to come into Kingston and set up shop without the need to necessarily make a lot of money. It's just what people usually set out to do. We came here to build community, not necessarily to make a whole bunch of money,
Well, as the former tourism director, I thank you for your being such a entrepreneur and looking at the Hudson Valley, particularly Ulster County. And I tell you, over and over, I hear similar stories where businesses that have been located in, whether it was online or whether they're in the New York City, have come to the Hudson Valley and Ulster County. What was the environment that really appealed to you to come here?
Just like I said, I mean, I came up here in September and I just felt the love. Just walking around Kingston for a couple hours was enough.
Right.
The amount of people that, stop in the street, have conversations with you, as opposed to, rushing off to do whatever else they do. It's just like a real sense of community, and people genuinely want to get to know each other. Wonderful.
So you mentioned that besides the product that the people are going to experience when they go to your store, it's still offering it online, obviously, right?
Our cacao or product?
When people come into the store, you said it's almost like medicine. Can you talk about the effect that people are when they try what you're offering? How does it affect them?
Right. So cacao in itself, like physically, the cacao in itself, right? It's loaded with antioxidants. It's got 40 times the amount of antioxidants that blueberries, for example, which antioxidants is it keeps your body young. And then it's also loaded with magnesium, what relaxes you, and a whole bunch of feel-good molecules that lead to the production of serotonin, which is a feel-good molecule in your brain. And so in general, cacao has this capacity to make you feel amazing. So when you couple that with like just solid human interaction, which is what cacao circles and ceremonies are all about, it allows us and helps us to open up with each other and truly communicate from, a space of truth. And so that's what we're looking to cultivate here at our shop. When you come in, whether it's, for some delicious treats, we also have some friends that make amazing medicinal, healthy desserts. Or, a beautiful cup of cacao that you'll leave feeling amazing and wanting to connect with other people.
So I'm a coffee guy, okay? So I guess I like my caffeine.
I drink mate, which has a lot of caffeine, so I'm guilty myself.
Okay, good. But if I decided to come down, you're open in the afternoon, basically most of the time, so it's like 12:30 to 4. But if I came down and ordered
12 to 3, by the way.
What's that?
Might change, but open 12 to 3 generally this month.
Oh, okay, good. By the way, if people are interested in checking out your website, what is the website that they should go to?
It's Cacao Laboratory. So it's CACAO LAB as in boy ORATORY Laboratory. I'm Hispanic, so sometimes I mispronounce it, but it's cacaolaboratory.com.
So you mentioned that you started out as in the financial world, correct?
Well, yes. I mean, my first business out of college, which I started myself, it was a very humble experience, but it was a publication. So I spent some years working in marketing, and I created content much like you, but it was printed. And when I sold my magazine, I was married at the time, and in her family, finance was the thing. So I went into brokerage. I was working at a retail brokerage firm selling stocks, if you've ever bought any. And at some point, I just got really turned off by how the industry operated. This idea of churning accounts and just driven by this need to maximize output, which is really what just turned me off. And so when I left that world, and my sister had come across a ceremonial cacao in my elder in Guatemala, and wanted to start working with ceremonial cacao, and so I got a chance to travel there. It totally blew my mind, and that's how it started.
Right. Okay, that's good. So, by the way, this is Rick Remsnyder. Anybody that's interested, feeling like calling in, please call 331-9255. We're with Federico Friedman. How more, now that you're into, you left the financial field and you have this business endeavor, how much more rewarding is it to you? Maybe it's not, you're not chasing the buck as much. How much more rewarding is this business and to see the fruits of your labor paying off?
Oh my God! I mean, all right. I'll describe it with an interaction. Every time, I mean, I don't know if you've ever gotten a call from an investment guy, but generally you're not welcome. and so, it's a totally different experience from how much love we receive from our community for all the ceremonial or, the circles, the community aspect that we offer. So then, whenever I'm behind the counter here in Kingston and somebody comes in and tries one of my chocolates or something yummy that we make, and you hear those or and those, it's really just it's a feeling that I couldn't really describe. It's amazing, just to be thanked and to be recognized, but also just feeling like I'm not just creating waste in the world or promoting companies that are not necessarily have our best interest. The banking powers in corporate America does not have your or my interest at heart. And so being able to work on a business that is truly promoting, a healthier lifestyle. It's just everything that I always wanted. So, highly, highly motivating.
Well, that's great, Federico. In addition to tasting good, I'm reading about cacao allows up to 30% more oxygen to flow to the heart, brain, and skin. So this is also good for you, correct?
I would hope so, yes.
Well, good. I mean, I don't know how much, I don't want to diminish the effects of coffee because, unfortunately, I probably couldn't live without it. But something like this, I'm reading your description here that cacao is believed to connect you to your heart in the Mayan culture. Can you talk a little bit about how you and your sister have obviously traveled the world and studied the Mayan culture? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about, what I've experienced, with some of the communities that we work with. I mean, for one, the indigenous communities in Central and South America have a connection with life that is just, I think, healthier. This is like just utter love and expression of love to everything and everybody. Even, people that don't have their best interest, just in general, outsiders, and their connection with life is just unparalleled. They interpret their dreams, everything that happens has meaning in their life. And I think, the minute that I stopped rushing around and I started paying attention to life and speaking with life, which is something that I learned from some of the elders that we work with, my life totally changed. And, I went from perceiving the world as, something that was against me to something that was really there to support me in my growth. And so I think this relationship that indigenous people seemingly have with reality, it's just much healthier. And one of the things that I hope to continue to cultivate from what I've learned is this idea of a sacred economy, that everything is sacred, and maybe it's not really about continuing to extract things from the world, because the world is an entity in its own, and we should work with our planet rather than just continue to use it. This idea that we don't own things, but that we're with things. These are all, amazing things that I've learned. That, my sister Florencia is the one who truly spends time with the elders and studies with them. Honestly, I'm just the one working in the background. Flo is unfortunately not here in the States today because she's in Guatemala. One of her teachers passed last week, Tata Pedro Cruz, who's also a very well-known indigenous leader around the world. And so Flo, just when this happened, just went to spend time with the family. So that's why I'm the one in the interview today. But again, I'm usually the one that's just, working in the background and making things, happen with the company.
Sure.
I hope that kind of describes, what we learned a little bit. But I would love for you to speak with Flo at some point about this.
First of all, pass along my condolences to the elder there. That your sister's visiting the ceremonies. I'm sure you have people that are just strolling along Wall Street and see your business and just on kind of a lark walk in. When they come into your business, what is the overwhelming reaction when you have, I believe you have murals on the wall and things of that nature? Is it some sort of, are you expecting them to experience some sort of serenity at some point in addition to what you're offering drink wise? And is that the atmosphere you're trying to provide?
Yes, absolutely. If I heard correctly, you said Serenity.
Serenity, right? Some sort of peaceful feeling when you walk in there.
To leave people with, yes, absolutely. If there was anything that I would love to leave people with, is peace. And to answer your first question, I mean, we have a mixed slew of reactions when people walk in here. Many people don't really know what to make of it. I mean, I think it's this concept that food is sacred is foreign to a lot of people, and many people just consume things mindlessly. So when they walk in here, many were still looking for coffee or Dunkin' Donuts, and others really truly understand what ceremonial cacao is all about. There's a lot of people that actually come in and understand what we're offering here. So I'm happy to connect with both types of people, I would say. But it's really, really funny when somebody comes in here for, some cheap coffee and they end up really loving what we do. It's great.
Well, it's interesting because it's a whole different, I'm sure it's a whole different experience than, not to knock Dunkin' Donuts or a Quick Check or anything like that, but
I would never. They have big attorneys.
Yeah, they provide great business for the community. But all I can tell you is that living in Lake Katrine and trying to get into the drive-through at the Dunkin' Donuts in Albany Avenue, not exactly the most peaceful experience as you try to wedge your way into line, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think one business is, offering the community, like a source of fuel. I mean, I think the slogan, runs in Dunkin' or something, right? Something like that. America runs in Dunkin', yeah. It's amazing. And I think, and I praise them for that. I think what our mission with Cacao Lab is to nurture, healthier relationship with our environment, with our community, through food, through something that is so common to all of us, and it's such a common thread. But it's just totally different goals, I think.
Well, we just have a couple more minutes, Federico. I want to thank you for taking the time this morning. Welcome to the community. I know the business has been open since February. I encourage people to go down to 295 Wall Street in Kingston. Is there anything else you would like to add before we let you go for this 4th of July weekend?
And thank you. Thank you for having me. And again, thank you for the warm welcome to the community. And it really means the world to me. And happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. I'm happy to be in this great country, in this great community. It's a happy 4th to everyone.
Well, good. I feel delinquent that I haven't been there, but now that I've talked to you, I feel like I'm definitely going to come down and experience the full thing myself. So, good luck.
Oh, and by the way, let me extend an invitation if you would like to come on. We have actual cacao ceremonies every Friday at 6:30 p.m. So if you wanted to join us for an actual cacao ceremony, I would love for you to join us.
All right. Well,
that's what it's all about.
That sounds great, Federico. Please pass along my regards to your sister, and we'll hope to see you soon.
I hope so.
Okay.
Happy 4th.
Take care. All right, Lawrence, that was a very interesting guest, and I got to get down to the Cacao Lab pretty soon.
It's only right up the street, right?
I know. I feel like I've really...
Fran probably goes there every day because she's right across the street.
That's right. Oh,
Not for long, though. She's moving to the Freeman building, right?
Well, yeah, it seems that's what they said, but then they said it's stuck in committee, so Ulster County government, that might...
I know that they look like they've moved out of Ryan, Roach, and Ryan because... That's just right across the parking lot right here.
Right.
And I don't see anything in the top floor, and I walk on Green Street quite often. So
I really feel bad at being a former employee at the Freeman, that the Freeman is no longer there. But, hey, life goes on. It'd be a great location.
It used to be a way better newspaper, too, but we'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, we're going to stay positive. So enjoy your trip to North Carolina.
I will.
I won't see you in 2 weeks. I guess I'll see you in a month or so.
I'll be in Florida in 2 weeks, but you'll see me in a month. And I'm sure you and Dan will have a great time in 2 weeks.
We will. Have a great
weekend. Happy 4th of July, everyone.